Maybe we go with the presentation of Martin on in the first slide. So
yes. Okay, so Martin is the presenter. Okay, Tekla, it's recording, so whenever you want.
Okay, perfect. After some problems, now we start. Welcome to the webinar, Management of Transport of Goods, a challenge for the sustainability of municipalities. As we know, it's a very current topic, as, for example, we all have this discussion about air quality in cities, fine dust, and all these issues. And as already highlighted in the invitation for the webinar, transport actually consumes 1/3 of all final energy, and it accounts for more than 1/4 of the EU greenhouse gas emissions. That's quite a high number. And in 2016, emissions from transport were 26% above the level of 1990. So that's quite an increase, which is completely different to all other sectors. And from all the parts of transport, 72% of the emissions from transport are generated by road transport. So we see where the problem lies. And instead of this increase, which we are currently facing, emissions need to fall by around 2/3 by 2050 in order to meet the long-term 60% greenhouse gas emission targets that already have been set out in the 2011 Transport White Paper. Also, if we think about the Paris agreements, emissions from transport need to be reduced massively. And what we can say is that transport is the main cause of air and noise pollution in cities and municipalities. Especially transport of goods is a more and more demanding challenge for municipalities. Cities and municipalities, urban areas are the most affected entities, but in the same time, they are also the most important and influential players in this context. Municipalities are in a position to steer transport development and foster the implementation of new and sustainable transport concepts. They are the most important interface between the overarching goals, benchmarks and targets, and the real implementation on the ground. So, for example, municipalities can act as a role model. They can foster behavior change. They can adapt their local policies, invest in infrastructure, and test new market and business models. So very, very important role. On this background, we are very happy to present today's 3 very inspiring examples of sustainable transport solutions in the urban context and talk about how this can be financed. And it's really a great pleasure for us to welcome 4 excellent experts in these fields. We will start with Martin Sölle. He is a project manager for innovation in the Berlin Agency for Electromobility, and he will present us urban city solutions tested and implemented in Berlin. He will be followed by Olaf Möhn. He is from the University of Gothenburg, and in addition, he is project manager for transport planning and business models in the freight transport field in the Energy Agency of Southeast Sweden. And the Energy Agency of Southeast Sweden is currently celebrating its 20th anniversary, and so from this place, congratulations for 20 years of really excellent work and being a very good partner to a lot of European agencies. Thank you. Olaf will present us logistics in the municipal supply chain and models for co-distribution of goods. Then Frida Hansson, an expert in sustainable transport and mobility management, also coming from Energy Agency of Southeast Sweden, will introduce the Toolbox for sustainable mobility in the county of Kronoberg. And last but not least, Ozan Yilmaz, a smart transport specialist from the Elena facility of the European Investment Bank, will present us how the EIB supports investment to introduce more efficient transport and mobility measures in urban areas. After each presentation, there will be the opportunity to ask questions and discuss also in the end. We would like to ask you to mute your mic during the presentation in order to avoid acoustic problems or something. Thank you very much for this. Yeah, now we start, and I would like to give the floor to Martin. Please start.
Thank you, Tekla. Thank you for the nice introduction words. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Can you already see my screen?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to just full mode. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to talk in this webinar. It's also my first webinar, actually, so let's see how this goes. Good morning from Berlin. I'm delighted to talk a little bit about what's going on in the capital of Germany and what we have done and we like to do in the future about city logistics and how we do it more environmental friendly, but also in the aspect of innovations, how we tackle new innovations and get new businesses done in Berlin. So first of all, let me talk a little bit about ourselves. The Berlin Agency for Electromobility, EMO. Actually, it should be called nowadays Berlin Agency for Smart Mobility, since we are already working since 9 years now around electromobility in Berlin. We've seen quite a dynamic development in the field of smart mobility. So I will touch on a variety of topics in a short time of 15 minutes. I hope I give you a little overview of what we're doing here. The agenda for today will be firstly the Berlin approach and our general strategy to tackle smart mobility solutions for the city. I will touch, since I'm the first presenter, also a little bit on status quo in city logistics. I know it's very similar in different kind of European cities, I would say, but just to give you a little bit intro about where we are at the moment, I think it's a good thing. And then I will present some of our innovation topics. So city logistics of tomorrow, digital, decentralized, and automated. And actually, we just recently conducted the study around the role of automation and connectivity in city logistics, and I will touch on two potential use cases here. So let me start again by saying who we are. The EMO is an agency of the state of Berlin, so we are an officially entity of the state of Berlin, and we're mostly driven to create economic benefits around smart mobility solutions, meaning that we are primarily financed by the Senate government of economics, but of course as well we have the environmental aspects also in mind. And from the start, we are not only an agency, but we are also a public-private partnership. You can see it here in a nutshell. We have roughly 70 partners in our network. We're all working on smart mobility solutions, of course, in kind of different aspects. What we've done in the last year, and we've grown with our network, is mostly new innovation solutions around personal mobility. And the aspect of city logistics is a little bit, I would say, it's a little bit behind, but it's coming now. I think it's not only a trend, but it's something we have to tackle. There's a lot of potential to make it more environmental, especially when it comes to last mile city logistics solutions. And this will also reflect in our partner network in the future. So our approach is not only electrifying the transport in Berlin, but also touch the different kind of aspects of the cases approach. You see it here. That's meaning connected driving. This is automated. I will touch this in a minute. We're talking about shared economy, of course. Berlin is one of the nice examples, I would say, in the world, or at least in Europe, where a lot of offers around shared mobility are already in place. And we talk about sustainability, of course. This is a no-brainer. So the areas of action where our agency is working on are three. New mobility, like I said, is mostly around innovative mobility solutions in terms of mobility as a service. We talk about micromobility, city development and district areas development. So getting the people involved, of course. We call it also digital test areas for urban mobility, and automation is also an aspect. Then we have smart infrastructure, so we're talking around innovative charging technologies, bringing more charging spots in place, of course, extending the businesses also around sector coupling, so houses, all of this comes together. But today I will talk about city logistics. And what's the status quo in city logistics? I mean, you all know it, you all see it in the streets when you live in the city, at least. Maybe in the rural areas, it's not so much a problem. What we have an increased dynamic in e-commerce, and this leads to more parcel delivery, and this ultimately leads to more traffic. And this is, of course, done by more and more people buying online. So you see this in the numbers here, and we already have around only in Germany 11 million parcel deliveries each day. So this is crazy. So this is exploding. There's a huge growth rate, and this leads to massive problems for the cities. So we have huge challenges, of course, when it comes to city traffic. One of the issues here is, of course, you see it on the picture on the left side. A lot of vans cruising around the city try to deliver their parcels. This is also not only B2B, but it's mostly B2C traffic nowadays. You know that from yourself. So everybody, I think 2-3 times a week, is ordering something, whatever it is. And so the traffic is there. And the problem is you have oftentimes several competitors using their delivery hubs, their own vehicles, and this results in redundant and efficient city traffic, in our opinion. Then you have the human factor, which also leads to what I will talk to you later about autonomous solutions. So there's a shortage of drivers. So when you look in the structure of the parcel services, they're all working with subcontractors, and you see when you go on subcontractors, you have very bad vehicles. This is not, we're not even talking about e-mobility here, but this is oftentimes very old vehicles. And then you have the human factor, meaning that they have problems to find capable drivers. Then again, also in B2C parcel delivery, we have very small margins. There's also a huge pressure on the companies to get the business done, and oftentimes that means there's a small budget to renew the fleet. And also from the market point, there's still, in our opinion, very low offers in terms of competitive electric vans. So this is still an issue when it comes to pricing. What we've doing from our city perspective is offering a funding program for the companies to support them to get new electric vehicles. But this is still a very tough business to do. And then you have the issue that from the city's point, you have the pressure to do something. So either it's intervening in commercial transport, like other cities are doing this. Berlin also has a low emission zone, or doing nothing at the expense of citizen health. So it's a very, very critical issue, and also the political one. But I will touch on the positives, so on the innovation side, what we can do and what we should do. So of course, many cities, as well as logistics companies, are fully aware that change is needed to tackle the current problem of city logistics, what I just mentioned. So mostly in test projects, new kind of solutions are tested. And this is also a good first step, of course, to give the stakeholders a valuable feedback. What is doable, what kind of electric vans or trucks are feasible, because you all know it's a new system, not only the vehicle itself, but you need the charging infrastructure, etc. So, for instance, on the left side, you see here a nice pilot in Berlin with 2 e-Force trucks, 18-ton electric trucks driving around here, delivering grocery stores for Rewe and Lidl. It's a nice example, and we hope, of course, that they will grow in terms of the amount of vehicles, electric vehicles used by the companies. And then I will talk a little bit about last mile solutions, because this is becoming a very important factor for the cities itself. So we need new solutions to make it more smarter and more intelligent, and also, of course, more environmental friendly. So for instance, on the left side here, the image, you see one of our pilot projects in Berlin called Komodo, where 5 of the biggest parcel services using virtually one micro hub on logistics hub in the city transportation hub together. But this is just the first step. So they're using the physical location here together, and the micro hub is operated by an external party. This is a good start, because usually there's a lot of competition, of course, between the parcel services, and at least they're trying here the first step in terms of working together. But what we see, this can just be the start, because we talk about last mile delivery. We think, in our opinion, we need a certain grade of consolidation. And this could lead, and we need to analyze this, to fewer traffic in the end. So we're very keen to try these kind of innovation projects together with our partners and our local companies. So we are thinking at the moment about conducting cooperative use micro hubs, because that might be the right solution to go for. So now I want to touch a little bit on this, but also on the role of automation in our project landscape, because a couple of months ago we conducted a study together with private PricewaterhouseCoopers to see what kind of use cases could be interesting to go for, because our role as innovation agency is to create ideas, get the feedback from the market, and then conducting work to develop such pilot projects. Like I said, we would like to focus more on city logistics topics, because we feel that we do a lot in Berlin around new mobility solutions for passenger transport, but there's still a huge potential for city logistics, and we see it at the moment. We can also, I see from the feedback we get from the market, that there is huge demand to do something, but unfortunately the companies they're very focused on their daily business, so that's hard to get them on board for such projects. But we are we're very optimistic that we can do so. So I want to present just in the next minutes use cases and where we stand there and what we want to do with them in the near future. Can you still see me?
Oh, we can't see you. We can hear you, but not see you.
We see the presentation, yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. Okay. So what we thought about is in the first place, use case 1, like I already said, to digitization of parcel delivery to retailers, meaning that we have selected one area in Berlin where it's mostly B2B traffic, so there are a lot of shops there, and we have a problem that you see it on the pictures. There's a smaller road. There's a lot of different kind of traffics. So the issue here is when the vans are parking, mostly illegal in the second row, or not even the second row, but just parking, they're hindering the usual traffic there. There's even a tram line, so then it's get totally chaotic. So the idea here is to avoid mainly the larger vans and to use a micro hub in the nearby area, and then to deliver the parcels via cargo bikes. So this is the idea, and of course, you know, this it's a nice idea to have one area just delivered by one white label service, and this is very hard to do because, like I said, the cooperation between the companies is almost impossible to do at the moment if you not have a pressure point to do so. But the pressure point could be that the recipients themselves would say, okay, we want some environmental friendly solution for our neighborhood, so we like to be delivered the parcel to one warehouse, and from the warehouse then we have a last mile delivery with eco-friendly cargo bikes. So this is a project approach here to use micro hubs and intelligent delivery planning. This is also, of course, about intelligent backend system. And just to lay it out here in short, probably it's a little bit complicated on the first look. This is what I said. So we try to speak with the with the business shop owners to have an agreement on one uniform delivery address in the project area, and then the goods could be delivered to one standard address, which would be the micro hub. This would also mean that we have, or we need a collaboration with at least 2 local partners, one who has a micro hub warehouse already there in place, and then we talked about with one subsidiaries of Hermes Group to make this happen, and we're still about to conduct this project. But of course, like I said, probably there will be an extra cost because you need to combine these parcel deliveries, and this will probably a little bit cost extra. So we need some funding program for test phase. We're about to apply this at the moment. So this is this in a nutshell. And there are all, as you can see, there are other aspects as well. Of course, intelligent planning, routing, etc. Maybe also using some kind of parcel boxes in the end. Who knows? But it's complex enough. But we see a lot of potential to at least try it in one area and see what would be the effects. So is there really a reduction of traffic possible when you consolidate traffic, parcel delivery or not? So this is a question here. We will see. And the second use case we thought about, actually we have 3, but I will only touch on 2 today. The automation of parcel supply, meaning using autonomous vehicles. We know this is still a little bit in the future, but we see already in personal or passenger transport there are these autonomous or highly automated pods. So we see a lot of also for this in the parcel delivery. We know that recently Sweden, there's also a company, Enright startup, that they're doing a test together with DB Schenker to try this on a small scale. And we see also potential for this in one of the neighborhoods in Berlin. Probably, and we thought here about one of the neighborhoods with 1 or 2 family houses, so they're long journey, large space between the houses, but there's also not so much traffic, so you can probably test one of these autonomous driving projects there. And then again, there are a lot of aspects to it. We already started a little bit through, talked with some of the parcel services. They're highly interested. Indeed, not so much at the moment on the last mile, but in the warehouse and the meeting points, which means this is then one of the physical or virtual micro hubs within the neighborhood, to have an autonomous parcel shuttle between step 1 and step B. So this could be a solution. We see that a lot of companies working on the technology side. You see it here on the left side above, Continental just had some, well, let's say drafts and ideas around this. But also, for instance, Chinese and American companies are strongly working on such kind of solutions, but also German companies are thinking about this. So this would be a nice project we would like to do in the next years. We're also open for, of course, for feedback from your side. And if you know somebody who would be interested to do a pilot in Berlin, very well, warm welcome to do so. So lastly, a little bit summary and forecast. What we see from our work side, from our innovation project development, you almost always need all the three sides coming together, meaning the city side, ourselves, so you need the framework, you need maybe the right funding opportunity, you need the economy side, you need the right products with the right quality and the right costs, and you need the citizens, meaning when you do a pilot, at least you need the acceptance, you need but also the convenience to really have kind of a benefit from this solution. Otherwise, it will probably fail. So this is in a nutshell. Probably there will be some questions, I guess, but I'm happy to hear them and hope I can answer them. Thank you.
Martin, thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. I think it includes quite high number of innovations which are very interesting, and also I think it's very important that you say the most important thing is to reduce the number of travels or trips in order to increase also the quality of life and in urban areas. So very interesting and important developments for the future. I also welcome here now. I saw that we some more participants joined us. Also very welcome to them. And please, if you have any questions to Martin, please ask them now. Is there any question? Are there no questions? So maybe then I would like to ask, you talked about, and I think that's a very important point, that cooperation between the different parcel delivery services, very important point to have this. What would you say is crucial to bring them together and to reduce this competition between them?
Yeah, very excellent question. And this is what we also ask ourselves every day, because it's really not so easy, and especially in this field of last mile transportation. We oftentimes get the answer, you need a pain point. When you have a pain point, open to try something new, to get innovation in place. And when it's just a small kind of project, then it's okay. So like I said, there are probably 2 or 3 ways to make this happen. One would be that the city themselves, the government, says, okay, enough, we need some more regulation. So adapting the framework, meaning that like Madrid at the moment, they're saying, okay, there will be well, there is a zero emission zone within the city center, and you can just not deal with it, meaning that you have to adapt your fleet, make it more environmental friendly. We don't see this so much for Berlin at the moment. There is a low emission zone, some kind, but not enough. So, you know, so otherwise, maybe get good. Funding program oftentimes works well. So on federal level, there are some funding programs, at least to have a test period to make this happen. But then maybe it's also when somebody is moving, the other is also moving. So when DHL now announced, okay, we want to our fleet fully electric, then the others also have to deal with it. They have to do something. And also, and lastly, I think this is also kind of, especially in this B2C sector, last mile delivery, relevant that the customers, citizens are more aware of this topic. But sometimes you just say, I don't care, I just need my parcel. I don't care how it will be delivered. But I think we need to be more sensitive and also get the pressure back to the companies and say, no, I want my parcel more environmental friendly, and maybe I pay €1 more. I know it's very sensitive, this topic. Everybody wants don't want to pay more. But hey, there is always a cost aspect there. It's not for free.
Yeah. So that would also include, because normally if I order something, I do not have the choice between different delivery services. So that would be also something to ask to the companies who sell the goods to say, okay, offer maybe a choice of a green delivery and a normal delivery, so that people can say, okay, as you said, I pay €1 more of transport costs, but then I'm sure I have this green delivery more or less. green delivery with
Indeed,
maybe
could be an option.
yeah. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
I have one question, Tekla.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Martin, for this excellent presentation. In fact, I have a question for the first use case, for the first potential use case you presented about this digitalization of parcel delivery of retailers. So, what is the status of this project? So, did you complete the project preparation phase of this project, or are you still working on some details? And what will be the investment need at the end? So, do you have some numbers about that project? And what kind of support do you need? What kind of support from it can be European Union grants or other financing mechanisms? So, what kind of support you need in this project?
Good question. Excellent question. I mean, the status is that we already conducted a draft paper, meaning a project proposal paper, and we also applied for funding already. In the first attempt, we couldn't succeed, but there are some numbers, and maybe we can later directly go on and speak with this. We have already partners, so we have parcel service partner. We have one who already has a physical micro hub in this area. The question is more about, and indeed, get the compensation. How you say? Well, it will be cost more to do this project, so you need a little bit of a certain amount of money to make this happen. And we are, we tried this with the funding. Doesn't work so far, but like I said, I see the change at the moment, also from our federal government, that there will be more funding opportunities. Like always, it would be nice to do it without funding and just with investments from the partners or from your side, maybe. It would be more, probably faster to do. That's the point at the moment. We're still looking for more partners. We're open to do so. And we're also open to do it in another area. But like I said, for one specific area, we have all puzzle pieces in place. We just need the right funding for that.
Okay, and thanks very much, and happy to discuss this further later. So it is really interesting.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Well, you can also ask in the end after you heard all presentations. So then I would like to invite Olaf Möhn from Energy Agency of Southeast Sweden to present the co-distribution of goods in Sweden. Please, the floor is yours, Olaf.
Okay, thank you. Will someone then move my pictures or?
I'm sharing the screen with you, Olaf. You can try showing your presentation. By the way, the other presenters, if you want to maybe don't show your webcam during the others' presentations and then put it back on when you speak, you can do it. Okay, Olaf, we don't see your presentation so far.
No.
But if you don't manage, I can show it for you, and then you tell me when to move the slides. Do you want to proceed this way?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be great. So I can start, when this comes up. This is actually a project that has been going on for like 20 years and is still in development, but it's taking off, and it's what we would call it's a business model of the municipalities. And if you can take the next slide. This is something that I've been working on for the last 10 years, even though we're going to see later on here that it's 20 years. But the work that we've been working on, and it has been widened now, so we also have it involved in this national center, is what we will call a disruptive innovation in the transport sector. And in this case, the municipality is the role model. Someone mentioned the role model before, and in this case, it's the good example, and especially it's a good example because it's consolidation of goods. The fill rate on an average in goods transported in Sweden on the road is about 20 to 30%. The absolute easiest way and the way that we can solve most of this carbon problem is by consolidation. I mean, if we have 2 trucks with 20 to 30% of fill rate and we combine them, it will be 50 to 60%, and we take away a truck. So this is much more effective than biofuel or electrification or whatever. And we can see though that we do have a large industry, vehicle industry in Sweden. We have both Volvo and Scania, and there's a lot of research going into the future with driverless trucks and so on. We also have a lot of projects and small companies, innovation, trying to solve home delivery, of course, with the internet. But the 90% of the transportation in Sweden is in the business-to-business sector, and that's where all the distribution is. We can maybe take the next slide, please. Here are some facts. As you can see, the population density is very low. I think the Netherlands has around close to 500 inhabitants to the kilometer. We have only 23. However, most or 85% of the 10 million living in Sweden are living in about 2,000 cities or towns. So it is actually a very urbanized society, even though it's vast. As you can see, it goes all the way up to the Arctic Circle. The other thing is, as said, we all have taxes in the European Union, but we are the epitome of the social welfare state. 6% of all food in Sweden are bought by the public, where the municipalities is a large buyer, which goes to schools, preschools, elderly homes, and hospitals and so on. And this is a very substantial part, especially we have 290 municipalities, but in some municipalities, the municipalities is a big transport buyer. If the municipalities don't happen to have any industry or retail and so on. Please take the next slide. I'm coming back here now to how to improve transport efficiency. And this is a study which was done 2011, but the situation is about the same now. There are later studies, but we can see that this is what is the improvement of transport efficiency, and we can see that the engine and the next phase is, of course, electrification, but also biofuel. But where we have to change behavior and new business model, it's very low. And here, that's where the potential is, and this is where the municipality comes in as a role model. Next slide, please. We have to do one distinction at first, and that is that we have to differentiate the municipality as a traffic regulating authority and the municipality as a goods owner and purchasing. And in this respect, as I said earlier, 6% of all the groceries in Sweden are bought by the public. It is a large transport buyer in the same respect as any retail would be. And this is somewhat different from most other European countries that such a large portion of especially food is bought by the public. Next slide, please. So what is this? What is the difference? Well, we have the Swedish Public Procurement Act, which follows the EU directives, and the conventional business model is called free delivery, which means that in the procurement, the goods and the transport is procured together. So it's purchased together. So what you do is that the municipality do two procurements, one for the goods and one for the transport, which means when you do that, you can also put demands on how you want the transport executed. And in this case, we use an urban consolidation center, and all the goods that are bought are coming to the UCC, and then it's distributed by one vehicle. We can say on an average, a municipality has about 10 suppliers. So this means that each supplier has its own vehicle. So if we take the next slide, please. So what's happened is that about half of these vehicles, about 5 on an average, are groceries, and the other half is other goods like office supplies and so on. And we can reduce from 10 vehicles to 2 vehicles, one vehicle for groceries and one vehicle for other goods, which of course is a reduction in the environmental impact of by 70 to 80% due to consolidation. And an example is that in the southern part of Sweden, we have 3 municipalities that work together, and they had before 27,000 stops, and it was diminished to 6,000 stops for a year, which is about 70 to 80%. But it's not only that, because the other driving force in Sweden for do the change to an urban consolidation center is to increase the share of local food producers, which is not easy, because you cannot in the procurement say that you want to buy something Swedish, because it's not legal according to the Swedish Public Procurement Act. But if you think about it, if you want to increase the local producers, the biggest barrier for the producer to be able to sell to a municipality is the transport. Even those 3 municipalities I mentioned, they have about 60,000 inhabitants together, and they have 120 kitchens, and they have about 300 other units that are getting supplies. So if we go back to the groceries, there's impossible for a farmer to have like a transportation to 120 kitchens each day. So what's happening is that once again, we take these 3 municipalities down in south as an example. They increased the numbers of grocery supplies from 5 to 10, which means if we have been back in free delivery, the amount of trucks and also the vehicle kilometers driven or travel, VKT, it would have been, an increase. So instead of 26,000 stops, we would have had something around 50,000 stops. which of course have increased the carbon. So these two driving forces needs urban consolidation centers in order for both of them to be sustainable. I think we can take the next step. Next, please. Yeah. And this I will come back, but here we have altogether 42. We can take the next slide. 42 municipalities. Next slide, please. We have had this. This is like a business model which is increasing very fast. The first decade, from 1999 to 2009, we had 7 implementations. And then you can see yourself here on the screen how it's growing. And I will come back in the end. 2018 here, we got this national center, which is governed by the Energikontor Sydost, I forgot now where we are working. But anyway, you can see this is like it's growing. So at present, the every 7th municipality has changed to this business model, which of course is a very different from how the regular transportation in the private enterprise, how the private enterprise procure their transport, which is mainly based on free delivery. Next slide, please. We can also see that the municipalities work together. They work in clusters. We have the half of the Swedish municipalities are small. They are only have below between 5,000 to 16,000 inhabitants, and these small municipalities are usually in a way satellites to a larger city, which is usually have procurement and they work together. So this one urban consolidation center is serving, as you can see here in Borlänge, 5 municipalities. In Växjö there is 6 municipalities, and so on. Collaboration is important. Next slide, please. It's also connected to digitalization and e-commerce, and we have out of Swedish 290 municipalities, about a little more than a third use e-commerce. And what e-commerce is that it's a total digital purchasing process. Everything is done by the computer. And the municipalities that have implemented co-distribution of goods also usually implement e-commerce, because when the number of suppliers grows from like 5 to 10 in a kitchen, it's almost impossible for the cooks and the others working there to in order to using the phone or mail to do their purchases. So instead they use e-commerce, where you have everything in the computer. You have a pre-cat, you have it, where you can see what you can buy. Also, it's e-commerce also give you a lot better follow-up. You know who is buying and what you're buying. Next slide, please. There are different models of co-distribution of goods, and this is where the work we have done in Växjö comes in, and what we work on. And it is if most of these, they use what is called here the Borlänge model, which is like you procure the terminal, the vehicles, and the logistics. Some of these did okay. So, but the new or the more innovative or disruptive innovation is where the municipality, through route optimization, through digital planning, takes over the logistics, which means that they can control the carbon and also their environment goals in a different way, or a more efficient way, I should say. Also, it is that when the municipalities themselves can do the logistics, they can prioritize, between the kitchens and the other units when to deliver the goods. Because if you ask these kitchens, when they want to have the goods delivered, if it only comes once a week or twice a week, they said early in the week and usually in the morning. Not everyone can get early in the week and early in the morning, so someone has to do has to prioritize that, and in the conventional business model, that's up to the transporter to do. But in this, using this innovation, where when the municipality takes over logistics, they do the they prioritize themselves. Next slide, please. And I'm coming back here to these examples. I've already been through most of these. This is summary of what I've been talking of, and this is also where the development work was done. And as you can see, especially important for this seminar and city logistics is that we have a reduction of carbon by 75%. Next slide, please. And this is just an example of the procurement model. We won't go into it in detail, but what the municipalities do is that you beforehand the procurement, the RFQ, so to speak, is based on route optimization, where the municipalities do a simulation in advance, so we can define the routes, the kilometers, and the hours worked. And this means that the procurement is not based on you have procurement per hour or per stop. It is based on driving routes, kilometers, and hours. So you have to give a price for that instead of giving a price per stop. This is then used as the payment, which is done by reverse billing, which means that the trucks operating for the municipality has vehicle monitoring, where we can see how many kilometers are driven and hours worked, and then the municipality define what the transporter should bill, which gives transparency in this purchasing process. Okay, we can take the next. So this is part of city logistics, and there is also now talks in Sweden about regulating also the private enterprise, especially in city location. We have had a lot of city location projects. Usually the city location projects, not only in Sweden, but also in Europe, when the money ceases, then also the project falls. The problem is to get it sustainable. And one thing that we haven't tried in Sweden, we haven't had any research, that is regulation. Regulation in the way that we regulate public transport. So instead of having free enterprise, the municipality could regulate what trucks gets into the area, regulate that they need to have a fill rate of at least 50% to enter. Now this is nothing that is done yet, but the different stakeholders are starting talking about it. So it's something coming, and in this way, the municipalities have been the role model in providing these regulations. Okay, I think I have the last slide, and that is what has happened is that we have gotten a national center now, which is governed by I forget what we are called in English now. The where I'm having, but we do have it, and we have together with the province of Skåne, we have four persons working on this nationally to spread this, and I think that or what we estimate is that mid next decade, around 2025, we will have about, or at least we have plus 100 municipalities that have adapted to this business model. We should also say that this business model is still under development. It will be well, there are different things added all the time. Plus, it's also integration with the purchasing process and e-commerce. Okay, I think I close with that. I have here some references that you can see where we have described it. These are from journals or book chapters. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Olaf. I think this is an excellent and very impressive example how municipalities can actively take over their role and be a role model and show and influence directly the impact of transport. I think it's very interesting also maybe for other countries or other municipalities. Are there any questions from the audience? If this is not the case, Olaf, I would like to ask, when listening to you, I thought maybe, well, that there a lot of investment is necessary for this. How was this financed, and did also the municipalities build clusters to realize bigger investments? How is this done? I think that's a burning question also for our audience, because municipalities always have a big lack of money.
Yes, it's a very good question, and it's the essential question. And we must say that in order for this to take place, since we divide the procurement into two parts, one is the goods and one is the transport. The goods has to the price of the goods has to be lowered by 10%, and that is paying for the last mile. This is not easy since we have the Swedish Public Procurement Act, but we have studies which shows that the real cost is about 10%. Okay. So it has been. I mean, it is like in order to gain some, you have to invest some. So you have to do a cost-benefit analysis, and this is part of it.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So then you use your market power to reduce the price and use this in reverse to invest in infrastructure, which is going to the future because you can use it again and again. Very interesting.
Yes, it's the procurement process, and in the procurement process you have to we have had two dominant suppliers, and in order and they have their own transportation, but so in order to break it up, you have to segment your procurement, and when you can do that, you can get other suppliers in, and those suppliers does not have the they don't calculate the transportation costs. So it's part of you have it's a very big change, and it also needs for the municipality to invest in resources, in persons, in procurement and in e-commerce.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Olof. Any other questions from the audience, please? Okay, then maybe in the end. Thank you again. And now I would like to invite Frida Hansson, also from Energy Agency of Southeast Sweden, to present her toolbox from Kronoberg. Frida, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm gonna see if I can get my presentation up here. I don't know, is it there? It's not there, right?
No, I guess it's not there. We see.
I tried to share it with you. Can you send me the invitation to share my screen again? No, I don't have it. The screen here. Can you see it now?
No, we see your camera, and we see you, but we don't unfortunately see your presentation. Melissa, can you help?
Do you see it now? No.
No. Do you remember you managed pretty easily last time, Frida? But if you can't,
Yes,
I can do I can do like Olaf. Just let me know. I can show it myself if you prefer.
Wait, now I have the invitation again. Yes, see.
Ah, okay. Let's try one more time then.
Did it work?
No, it's strange.
Ah, that's weird. It worked last time. Right?
Yeah, okay. It's okay. I will show my
Maybe
screen
you can help me out then.
Okay.
Thank you. Maybe it's something with like, our organization here.
It's always
for Southeast Sweden. It's not collaborate.
Yeah.
So I can start to talk maybe. Thank you for this possibility to present our project that is called Sustainable Mobility in the County of Kronoberg. And the aim of this whole project that started 2017 and will continue until 2020 is that we are going to help employers to help employees to both travel in a more sustainable way to their job, but also in their jobs. And also then we are going to work with transportation of goods and also with travels that are made by visitors. So we have a little bit of a broader project, and I'm gonna be very honest with you right now. We haven't worked too much with transportation of goods, so it will be also very exciting to come back and maybe present more what we have done in this area later. But today I'm gonna more focus on the tools and the toolbox that we have developed in our project. And we were also supposed to be 2 people, and Maria could not join us today. And I also just wanna flag that I am one of the newest members in this project. So if I don't know everything and I have questions, or you have questions that I can't answer today, I promise you I will ask my colleagues and then come back to you as soon as possible. So the agenda for this presentation is that I will present you to the project, and then I will talk a little bit about the participants in the project, and also what kind of working methods we have been using. And this is going to be the focus of this whole presentation. We have used motivational interviewing, which means that we have been going to the different organizations that are in the project, and we have been helping them to motivate them and figure out how they can actually travel in a more sustainable way. And then we have also done what you can call a gap analysis, that we have looked at the current situation and then looking at where do we want to go and be able to develop different tools then that can help every single organization to get where they want. That is, of course, to travel more sustainable and reduce their carbon dioxide emissions. Next slide, yeah. So I just mentioned the overall objective, and that is to reduce CO2 emissions from the transport sector, specifically then in the county Kronoberg. We also have some objectives, and that is to increase the knowledge in general, also about freight, transport, and transport of goods, of course, in this field, but also how you can commute in a more sustainable way, and also information such as how do you use more virtual meetings, and that you develop meeting and travel policies and things like this, and also to make sure that our practitioners actually take action. So right now we are in the implementation stage. This is going to be ongoing now for at least a year. We have a lot of activities that we are offering our organizations that they can do, and that's exactly what we want. And then we also have as an objective to increase the share of passenger traveling by public transport, cycling, and also walking. Yeah, so these are the 4 areas that I was mentioning before. So how are different employees in our organizations traveling to and from their workplace? We also are gonna try to improve travels in the job, travels made by visitors, and then also freight transport. And we are mainly working with mobility management, that I hope many of you already know what it is. And it's a little bit of a more soft way of working. So we are trying to communicate how people should think and how they can also changing, just using nudging, that is a way to change behavior, also make people travel in a more sustainable way. So nudging is a little bit, I should try to explain this in a fairly easy way because it's a very complex topic. But for example, when we wake up in the morning, we might not always be very rational. We think about, okay, should we take the bike to our job or should we drive instead? And even though we know all very well that, yeah, it's better for the environment to go by bike, and we also know that it's better for our health, we might anyway actually take the car. And this is a bit annoying. And then that is how you use nudging, that we are not trying to force anyone to really change their behavior, but instead support them and motivate them to make the right decision, if that makes sense. So you can, for example, have a sign saying, when you're parking a bike next to your office, saying that, oh, isn't it lovely to bike today, and you have reduced your carbon dioxide emissions this much. That is a positive message you give to people. So that's most what we are working with. Yeah. And here we have our participating organizations. So the county administrative board is Kronoberg, and that is also the owner of the project, Region of Kronoberg. And yeah, we are collaborating with them. Like when I say we, it's the agency, the energy agency for Southeast Sweden. And then we have 11 public organizations in the project. All the 8 municipalities are also in the project, all the 8 in this county. And then we have only, unfortunately, 3 private organizations. And we tried in the beginning of the project to, of course, get more private companies in the project. It is quite challenging, and this is something I at least think is very important to think about next time we do a project and do this. How do we make sure that we also get them on board, because they are, as you all know, very important. One of the companies we have in the project is IKEA, I guess you all are familiar with, and also maybe Vida is another one that you might have heard of. Yes. Yeah, so working method we have used is that very early in the project, we decided to send out travel surveys to all the different organizations' employees. So they got questions like, how do you commute to your job? How far is it? How keen are you on changing your travel behavior? What would help you, and things like this. And then we took the results and we invited each organization to their own workshop. And when we were sitting there having this workshop with them, they also came up with their own ideas and also tried to identify what they really needed to be able to travel in a more sustainable way. But this is an ongoing process all the time. We are constantly having this collaboration and discussion with each municipality and organization to see what they really need. Slide. So this is the core of our method and really the toolbox that I was going to present today. So what we first had was the theoretical toolbox. This was really in the beginning of the whole project. We started to investigate what other projects had done before. We did a lot of research, and then we designed this survey. And then we sent it out, we got the results, and then we invited everyone for a workshop. And what is important to see here is that we tried to match the needs they told us about, but also what we could see have been working or has been working before. We matched this, and then we made a unique toolbox for each organization. And this is very, very important because, of course, a small municipality out in the countryside or surrounded by farmland, it's maybe more helpful for them to, for example, get several lectures about eco-driving, because they are already using a lot of cars. And the thing is that it's more, it makes a bigger difference than, for example, if they would get offered to try an electrical bike for free for a month. It might not be an option for them. So this is just the way it's very important to see. Of course, you should in general also make the offer to them to also use bikes, but it's important to see that there are different needs and different resources also depending on the size and all other factors, of course. So this is complex in a way, but you have to make it unique. And so I just wanted to have another slide showing. So 4 areas, and then we have activities in each of these areas. And that's exactly what I was saying before, that we have mainly now been focusing so far in the project on the commuting to and from workplace and travels in the job. And now we are currently also more and more working with travels by visitors and moving into freight transport. And I really hope, as I said, that there will be future projects that are more focused on freight transport, more specifically. So the first category with tools is the knowledge and competences. And what we did was that we invited people to come for an inspirational day, 60 participants from the county and other counties, and to just learn about, how can you actually increase your carbon footprint and travel in a more sustainable way? What are the options? We are here to help you, and also more about the project, of course. And next thing we're going to have is From Strategy to Action, which is a conference where we invite also people to learn about travel and meeting policies and how you develop them. Also more about actually the power of nudging and changing behavior. And then we have also, of course, when we have had all the workshops, had a lot of inspirational examples, and also discuss exactly how they can change their organization and improve. And next slide, yes. And here we have the tools for travels to and from work. And we are so busy right now with all these activities, which is great. So something that is very popular is actually to know more how you are using nudging as an instrument. The more and more municipalities, they also realize that actually just having signs in the office instead of only your intranet it's very effective, and people think more about it if they are constantly reminded to do the right thing. Many times we know it, as I just mentioned before, but we don't think about it in an active way, actually. What is happening every time I drive alone in my car instead of taking the bike, for example. And then we also have this bike trial period that was very popular. So for a month, different municipalities and organizations, the employees were allowed to try an electrical bike for free. And this was very much appreciated. Also the public transport campaign, they are allowed to try public transport for free for a month, was also very much appreciated. people realized that it wasn't that difficult actually to go by bus or train, even though you have to plan a little bit more ahead and make sure that, you know, there are some buses leaving, but still people saw that it was possible. And we hope this project, of course, that should change the behavior of people, and they should continue to top up their card and use public transportation after this. And then eco driving is a little bit tricky, because many times when we have the lectures, and many people are interested, but the thing is that those that maybe need it the most and are driving a lot also in their job, and also with like heavier vehicles, they are maybe not the ones that are coming there to learn. This is a little bit more difficult, but more popular also in municipalities where we have quite small cities and very far distances, of course. Carpooling app is something that we're also developing now. So this is, of course, something I really think can be well combined together with public transportation. For the days, and if you're living out in the countryside and you don't have a bus stop next to you anymore, which is often the case, then this can be a good thing to also share the car to get to a bus stop, or to drive the whole way to your job. And now the tricky part is here, of course, to see if there is a culture that also works well with this carpooling app. Of course, you need to feel safe when you are going with strangers. Yes. And then travels in the job. So what we want to do here also more in the future, this is also ongoing now, we want to make analysis of support systems, travels made in the job. So when in your organization you can have cars and bikes that your employees can use, and it's important that the system is working in a very, say, well-functioning way, that it's easy to book the car or the bike and use it. We also want to make an analysis of efficiency in the organization of vehicles, which means that depending on your site, it's maybe more like, let's say, feasible to have cars that are leased instead of owning them themselves. Depends on the size. And also, should administration be more centralized, which is often the case, instead of decentralized, and other things to make the administration work in a smooth way. So different things in this category, but we haven't really started to do this yet. Another thing we have started that is very popular is to people try bikes in their job for their work travels. And now I got a question there. Sorry, I got it corrected. Yeah, and this is very also appreciated, and also the carpooling app will be used for this. And something that was also appreciated by preschools was that we had a trial period with cargo bikes. And this, of course, these trips that they're doing with the cargo bike is not or are not a replacement of other trips that would have been done with more dirty vehicles, but it's still a way for them to get out on an adventure, and then also maybe bring this new experience back home. So the parents are investing in bikes. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then I might actually read I take that after, if that's okay. So the travels by visitors we have also just started. As I said, we are mapping out now 130 tourist destinations. I think we're up now, and we are going to offer hotels that they can give away free cards to use for public transportation or transport, so they can go to the different destinations. And we're also going to develop the app so they can, of course, also see how they can easily get by foot, cycle if they want to do that, and also public transport. And also, some hike trails are also going to be there. So just to make the tourist sector a bit more sustainable. And now we come to the part that you might think is the most interesting one. And right now we are discussing with municipalities, Uppvidinge and Markaryd, how we can be able to help them to coordinate distribution of goods. And that's where we are right now, but we also hope to have more a conference that is specifically focusing on also sharing and educating people about what is more specific, coordinated distribution, and how can we improve the transportation of goods, and also help to give specific calculations on how do you actually suggest more fossil-free transportation or organization. But that's also why I'm here, to learn and see what we can do more in this field. Actually. So then you might ask, are we making any difference? And I could give you maybe also calculations of how much CO2 emissions that we have saved the planet, or but instead I would also like to just point out that what we really want to do here is not to have a product that reduces carbon dioxide emissions right now. We also want to make a change of people's behavior and make sure that we get a real change. So, for example, this lady here, she used this electrical bike for a month, and then after that, she was so satisfied she decided to sell her own car and buy an electrical bike. So that's a very, very concrete example of how we can actually make a change. And then I'm gonna take a second example. And also, when we had our first public transport campaign, we had in total 274 participants, and they together, they reduced the number of trips by 6,500, and by doing this, they decreased emission by 24 tons. So, of course, if they are also topping up and they are continue doing this, we can also get a clear reduction of it. It's great. The next thing we are going to do now, we are going to continue implementing our tools and help different organizations, but we're also going to look into how we're going to evaluate our project and to find a suitable exit strategy. It's also important I have myself a background in how to make sure that the knowledge is transferred into new projects and that key persons are not getting lost or they vanish in the final step of the project. But it's important to make sure that we use what we have now, learn from it, and that we also make sure that fits new projects, improve future projects. Like, how do we make sure that we also can get more private companies in the project, and also see if this project might have been too broad within this time frame and things like that. Yes, thank you so much for listening today. Here you have our contact details. So we are 5 in the project. The project owner is Maria, but you have me now. So if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask. And I got one question here already. If yes, we have, could I read it maybe?
Yes, of course.
Sorry. Dear Frida, do you have some preliminary results on behavioral changes on the people who use the first 3-month bike trial? Yes, so there you got one example. Spot on, like girl, she came back to us and said that she has changed completely and decided to sell her car and instead, buy her own car. So, but we have had many different like examples coming in from people, and people are surprised that it is so easy. But then, of course, we also have to see to the organization. Just this like small changes, for example, to have just this small thing to have the parking for bikes outside the first door to enter, instead of having back side of that building or whatever, or small things like that, or that you have a room where you can actually shower if you have a very far distance to bike, that you also can shower and feel that you are fresh once you are in the office. So things like that, small things. If there are more examples than that.
I would like to ask a question, Frida. So it's really it's also about behavior and awareness raising. So you mentioned about eco driving, that it's probably not the people who drive a lot in the job and who drive bigger vehicles that show interest in this project. Did you think about that while developing the project, and did you find a way to maybe try to involve the more reluctant people and not only have those people that are already willing to change?
yeah, so that is the tricky part, and that, like with all our activities, what we wanna do, we wanna attract people that, of course, are the ones that maybe are not too willing to change. That's also why we in our survey are asking, like, how are you changing? How do you see your how bad you see your travel behavior today, and is there something you would like to do to change it? And this is why it's so important to also have this very close collaboration with the municipalities. If we don't have key persons in each municipality, we can go and be a bit, how do you say, annoying, and try to really convince people, and also know where actually this kind of education or resources should be focused on. Who are the key persons that should improve? Without this person that knows this, we wouldn't be able to. That's also why we're constantly developing different tools and are always having this close collaboration with the municipalities. It is a tricky question, and this is something you should really think about when you are trying to develop a tool. But how do we make this appealing and understandable for that we would like to target? It's very, very difficult, and sometimes you also need, for example, had a name of our project in the beginning, to contain mobility, but people did not understand that sometimes, so we had to change it to green. It sounds weird now when I translate it. It's just how you're also communicating to be able to attract the people that really need it.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any more questions? I saw that Jörg from Baltefs asked for sending the slides. Melissa, am I right that we will upload them somewhere if the presenters agree?
Yes, of course, the webinar is recorded and will be available after, and so will be the slides on our website, and I will share it with all the participants.
Perfect, perfect. I see there is another question from Jörg Streusler. He said, do you have good practice examples for travels in the job? Frida, do you have?
Yeah, so yeah, we have some good examples there too, when we have worked and also helping to improve a bit the booking system and also make it more understandable that it actually exists. So it's more also about the communication within the organization sometimes. So also have a clear meeting and travel policies to also develop them together with organizations. So we have done that a few times to help them to also improve that. And that is to then make sure that every time you have a very short distance, this is sure by heart already, but of course then you should always take the bike instead of, for example, taking your own car. To have this within the organization is more strict, and also to make it work in practice. To have specific, how do you say, set rules and so on for the specific policy that we have done.
Okay. Yeah, that you can't answer. That Jörg is referring to a project we had in the beginning a long time ago, and maybe I will clarify this. Jörg, I don't know where you can find it because our website is closed down, and maybe I can check if we have something in our files. I will try and send you, Jörg. Okay, then thank you very much, Frida, for these inspiring examples. And now we come to our last presenter, Özcan Yilmaz, and he will tell us something about the core question, how to finance this, because this, as we already said, is always a burning point for municipalities. Özcan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tekla, and hello everyone. I'm Özcan Yilmaz. I'm working as smart transport specialist at EIB. By the way, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Also, I can hear you very well.
Yes, me too.
And also, can you see my slides on the screen?
Your slides and yourself. Perfect.
Okay, that's great. Great. So I'm working for European Investment Bank in Luxembourg. I'm working for mobility department of the bank, as well as I'm also working as a transport coordinator of the Elena facility, which is the topic of today's webinar. I will start with a quick introduction to EIB, European Investment Bank. Then I will give you much more information about Elena and how Elena can be used in supporting transport projects in urban context. First of all, EIB is a public policy bank. We are not a private bank. We are the long-term financing arm of the European Union. And as a public policy institution, EIB's main goal is to support growth and employment in Europe. Our activities focus on 4 priority areas. We call them public policy goals. These are innovation and skills, access to finance for smaller businesses, infrastructure, climate and environment. Mostly transport projects are falling into infrastructure, and some transport projects are also falling into the category of climate and environment. We are also a bank, and we raise the money we lend to the project promoters from the international capital markets through issuing bonds. Therefore, all the projects we are financing should be bankable projects. So this was a quick introduction to EIB and its role in supporting growth and employment in Europe. And here on this slide, you see the financing products of EIB. These are lending, blending, and advisory. We divide these products into 3 categories. The primary category of EIB products are falling into lending category, and so we are a bank and we give credits to the project promoters. And there are 3 different types of lending products: direct loans, program loans, and framework loans. And at the same time, we have also a blending product. So it is a combination of grants and the credits, and advisory part, advisory services of EIB. These are very important. 2 examples you see on the screen. One is European Investment Advisory Hub. This is helping project promoters to identify investment needs to prepare their projects. Public and private entities can be beneficiaries of European Investment Advisory Hub advisory service. And Elena, Elena is a grant scheme. It is available for all public and private entities who are investing in urban transport projects. This is a grant scheme, and this grant is used for project preparation, project development activities. Here, what is Elena? Elena is a long-term, long-lasting program, in fact. So it is a relatively old program. It is established in 2019 as European Local Energy Assistance. There is an agreement between European Investment Bank and the Commission. The management of the management of the program, Elena program, is done by EIB in place of European Commission. The financing of Elena is done under the Horizon 2020 framework program. Elena is a grant program, and this grant covers the preparation activities of the investment programs. So project preparation activities can be financed using Elena grant. And the main focal point of Elena is the energy efficiency. So this can be done by improving efficiency of the network, or this can be done by using alternative fuel or more efficient vehicles or infrastructures. Elena grants covers up to 90% of the costs related to the project development. There is no call for Elena. It is on rolling basis, and people, promoters can apply for Elena at any time during the year. First come, first served principle is applied in that context. There should be a level of maturity in the project, so it shouldn't be only a concept. So we should see that there is a big chance of investment in the project. Therefore, Elena proposal should demonstrate high probability that the project will be implemented. There is a kind of certain thresholds. These are the minimum investment thresholds for Elena. It is, you see on the slide, it is quite a high threshold level. It requires 30 million capex for the investments. And also there is a leverage factor that should be met during the project implementation. It is 10 for urban transport. What does it mean? If for example 2 or 3 million Elena grant is provided to the project promoters, then project promoters should invest in at least 20 to 30 million investment. So 1 million grant means 10 million investment. So this is the minimum leverage factor for transport. If the leverage factor could not be met, then grant may be clawed back. So that's one important thing. And the project durations, project implementation periods for urban transport is 4 years. So we can have 4-year implementation period. So Elena agreement with the project promoters. Who can benefit from the Elena grant facility? So public sector and private sector. So both public sector and private sector can benefit from the Elena. In fact, traditionally, Elena was for public sector, and in the last few years, private sector has started to benefit from the Elena. From the public sector, local, regional, or national authorities or other public bodies or groupings of such authorities or bodies, and these public sector bodies can form consortium as well. So all these groups of legal entities can benefit from the Elena. And from the private sector, private entities, they can also apply for Elena grant. They can, after demonstrating that they will do sound projects in urban context. And on this slide, you see the eligible investment programs. You see on the left side energy efficiency, on the right side urban transport and mobility, which I will talk on the urban transport and mobility part. You see 4 main bullet points for urban transport: alternative fuel, vehicles and infrastructures. These are eligible Elena investments. The vehicles, recharging infrastructures, energy efficient measures and systems. These are also eligible Elena investments. One important point, and this is also the subject of today's webinar: increasing efficiency and sustainability of urban logistics. So this is also one eligible Elena investment. What do we mean, in fact, by increasing efficiency and sustainability of urban logistics? Measures to manage urban logistics demand flows. This is eligible for Elena, or investments to shift to more energy efficient and cleaner modes in urban logistics. So this is also eligible in that context. And also ICT, information and communication technologies, digitalization, and use of intelligent transport systems in urban context. These are also eligible investments. All these investments, one important point I should highlight here, investment programs can be implemented by the final beneficiary or by a third party. So we do not require the applicant, the beneficiary to implement all the investments, to do all the investments. Investments can also be done by the third parties within the project context. What are the eligible costs for Elena? First, Elena, there are two main types of costs in Elena. One is internal staff costs. The other is external consulting costs. For internal staff, the personal costs, salaries, social security charges, and other remuneration-related costs. These are the eligible Elena internal staff costs. For external consulting, you see 5 different bullet points here. Feasibility, design, market studies, structuring of programs, business plans, energy audits, legal and financial advisory, preparing of tendering documents, and bundling of smaller projects to form bankable packages. So, in fact, there are variety of different services that could be provided by the external consulting companies or the people. So all these activities can be eligible cost within Elena. Some case studies, in fact, I will give you 2 case studies. These are the live projects that were supported by Elena. To give some idea what kind of projects we have supported so far. But as I said before, we don't have a call for Elena, so any projects can be applied, and then we can discuss on these projects. So if you feel that you have some projects that can be eligible for Elena, please feel free to contact us, and then we can discuss on these projects, on their eligibility, on their and also on the costs of these projects. One example is from Amsterdam. GVB is the beneficiary of this Elena grant. It is smart city mobility concept. The objective of this project, in fact, it was a program. It is composed of 4 different projects. These were implementing a regenerative braking energy system for the metro to improve the energy efficiency of the system, an IT backbone, and electric buses, including a charging infrastructure for these electric buses, and also 12 hybrid plug-in electric harbor ferries. So in fact, this program includes 4 different types of projects, one for metro system, one for a digital platform for mobility as a service application, electric buses, and electric ferries. GVB, they have got 3.5 million euro Elena support for that project. And the estimated investment size for this program was about 160 million. What they are doing and what they have done and what they are doing, because it's an ongoing project, a feasibility study for a braking energy recovery system, a feasibility study and preliminary design for the IT system, architecture, and also feasibility studies and procurement documents for electric buses and the plug-in hybrid ferries. So these were the cost components of the Elena grant for this project. And another example. Pardon. Another example is from, in fact, the beneficiary is from Germany, B2M software, but it is a consortium of private partners, private companies from different European countries. It is about a car sharing scheme. The name of the project is Hello. The objective of this project was to invest in about 2,000 electric vehicles and 1,200 charging stations. These electric fleets and charging stations will be implemented in 5 different countries, including Germany, United Kingdom, France, Spain, and Netherlands. They have received and they will receive in total 2.1 million Elena grant, €1 million Elena grant, and the estimated investment size was above 50 million euro. What are the activities they will finance using Elena grant? Are market assessment and engagement activities. They will finance these activities within this Elena grant. Procurement strategy and contract negotiations, business models, and also operations and service concepts, and project management and coordination activities. All these 5 different activities will be financed using Elena grant. This is the final slide of my presentation. I hope it is quite informative. So if you have any questions, then I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Ersan. This is very interesting, especially this inspiring examples. So are there any questions from the audience? If not, I have the question. Is it possible that municipalities build, for example, a cluster and apply together for such a project? Because in some cases it's interesting for them to have a clustered investment procedure. Would that be possible within Elena?
Yes. In fact, it is, of course, the group of cities, group of municipalities or regional authorities can come together and apply. In fact, we are also motivating them to do this. Because one of the main aim of Elena, in fact, is to replicate different projects in different countries and different cities. So I think this is a good way to apply for an Elena grant.
Very interesting. And how would be the procedure if one of our participants wants to go with this municipality? What would be the procedure to apply? You already said they can contact you. How would be the procedure?
It is pretty straightforward. What we do, in fact, just an email, a few lines. That's all. So if a municipality or if someone or if a private entity has a project and if they need some support for this kind of activities I mentioned to you, they can write an email to me, either my personal email. They can find this on this presentation, or there is a specific mailbox for Elena, elena@eib.org. I can also provide this email address separately. They can write an email mentioning about their project idea and a few lines about the project. Then we will start an informal negotiation process. Then at the end of this process, they will do the formal application. And why we are following this procedure, this process? Because doing an Elena application without an informal negotiation process is a very time-consuming thing. So before doing an Elena application, it is better to discuss with the project promoter about the details of the project and their needs. Then we write, in fact, the application together. then they apply for Elena grant, then the formal procedure starts after that. It is a pretty straightforward application process we have. It is starting with this informal negotiation process, then it is followed by a formal application. Then this formal application, after this formal application, we send a request for approval document to the Commission. And after we get their approval, then we start contracting phase.
Okay. I think that's a very good procedure, especially as you said, to avoid this time-consuming application in case it is not very promising. So it's I think it's a very good support from the EIB here.
Exactly.
Are there any other? Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? Not yet. Maybe I guess they can ask you, Ersan, also later on if something appears when thinking about this webinar, then they can contact you via your email, I guess. Is this correct?
Of course, by email or by phone, you can contact me. It will be great for me.
Thank you very much, Ersan. So if there are no other questions, I see here is. It's just for me. Okay, then, yeah, I would like to thank all the presenters for this really excellent, brilliant, presentations. And I think we see that the future of transport, especially in urban areas, is a combination of technical innovations. It is about alternative fuels, business models, but also behavior change. And so, and we see that the EIB is really a very important partner to realize this and to get support for this. And the driving force for all this is the municipality, and I think it's our task to support them with this and also to use these inspiring examples to bring them forward and to help them to fulfill this role they have in this whole field. So thank you again to the presenters. Thank you to the audience for listening, and yeah, maybe see you in the next webinars we will provide from the Federation and organize in the upcoming month. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and have a nice weekend. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Very much.